ओम अखंडम सच्चिदानंदम अवाङ्मनसगोचरम आत्मानम अखिलाधारम आश्रये भीष्टसिद्धये. Friends, today we are taking up a new Prakarana Grantha. Let me introduce to you what is this Prakarana Grantha. We, the followers of Vedanta, ascribe three types of scriptures as our main scriptures. Not three scriptures, and three types of scriptures. Because Upanishads are many, so that is one type of scripture. And of all the existing Upanishads, maybe more than 100, we take 11 Upanishads as our guide to spirituality, as our unfalling without any mistake there, authentic, unfalling scriptures. And these 11 Upanishads we call in general as Shruti Prasthan, because they are dialogues between Guru and Shishya to be heard by us, not read, heard by us, and the knowledge should come in us. That is called Shruti Prasthan. Then we have the famous Bhagavad Gita, equally authentic scripture, which Swami Vivekananda calls as the divine commentary on Upanishads. Divine means by the Lord himself. So, because it is somebody speaking, because it is not a part of the Vedas, it is because it is a part of the Mahabharata, which is a Smriti Grantha. Gita's value is same. Gita is also called an Upanishad. But because it is a part of a Smriti Grantha, the Gita itself is called as Smriti Prasthan. Prasthan means of getting moksha, means of reaching the ultimate goal of life, that is called Prasthan. And Upanishads are the Shruti Prasthan. Bhagavad Gita is the Smriti Prasthan. And then there is the third scripture. Badra and Vyas thought that if people want to read all Upanishads in a systematic way, so he has presented the different sentences of the Upanishads, different sentences of different Upanishads in a systematic way for us to understand. Logical way, you may say. He has not given any new logic, but in a logically understandable way, he has given the systematic approach to the Upanishads. So, his sutras, which he himself has called Shariraka Mimamsa Shastra, but we call it by Vedanta Sutra, Brahma Sutra, Vyas Sutra, and they are called the Nyaya Prasthan, the logical approach to the aim of life. So these three types of scriptures we accept as the authentic, unfailing scriptures. Now, there are other equally authentic books, and they are, as my Guruji told me, all books of Shankaracharya, he said. All books of Jnaneshwar, he told me. Many people are not aware of the Maharashtra saint Jnaneshwar. But when my Guruji was sent to Nagpur to start the ashram by Mahapurush Maharaj, he told him, I am sending you to Maharashtra. You, after going there, you study Jnaneshwar. There is perfection in that, he himself has said. So my Guruji told me that all books by Ganeshwar. Thirdly, he said, all books by, he said, Sri Ramakrishna Vivekananda literature. Please, not any book in the Sri Ramakrishna Vivekananda literature, books on or by Sri Ramakrishna, Sarada Devi, and Sri Ramakrishna's sannyasi disciples. This he told me. He also told me that mind seeks variety. So I have given you variety. And then he said, don't seek more variety than this. And I stuck to it all my life. Now, but along with these, there are a few books which he taught me. And in that, the main is this Sadananda Yatindra's Vedanta Sar. Now, all these books, other than the main scriptures which I told you, are called Prakarana Granthas. And the meaning of Prakarana Grantha strictly is that it deals with one aspect of the spiritual life. That is called Prakarana Grantha. It serves the purpose of the main scriptures, but specializes in or deals with one aspect of spiritual life. So let us now first of all understand this, what aspect this Vedanta Sar deals with. Now we roughly divide into two groups. We call one as Pramana Mimamsa, the other is Prameya Mimamsa. Let me introduce to you these words which are very important in spiritual life. Dictionary meaning I will give you, and then which applies you have to see. Prama. Prama is the original word, and the dictionary, Apt's dictionary, gives 4 meanings. Consciousness, perception, one meaning. Correct notion or apprehension, another meaning. True and certain knowledge. Third meaning, accurate conception. These are the 4 meanings. But out of which we take this Prama means true and certain knowledge. Prama means, Ma means knowledge. Prama means true and correct knowledge. True and certain knowledge is Prama. We are seeking that. Now, another word which is common in this connection is Pramana. And Pramana word has many meanings. First meaning is testimony, evidence, proof, Praman meaning. Second meaning, a means of getting correct knowledge. Third meaning, Pramana, measurement or standard. Pramana means measurement or standard, and testimony, etc. But we are not concerned with that. We are concerned with Pramana means of getting correct knowledge. Prama is correct, true and correct certain knowledge. Pramana is the means of getting correct knowledge. Prameya means that thing about which we want to get knowledge. The thing to be proved is one meaning, or the thing of which we are seeking certain knowledge. Third meaning, object of measurement, that which you want to measure. Out of this, in this context, we take it to be the thing of which we seek this certain knowledge. That is Prameya. Correspondingly, there will be a fourth word, Pramata, is the knower or the measurer. Now, out of this, Sadananda Deity deals with the thing of which we are seeking certain knowledge. Prameya, Prameya Mimamsa, analytical presentation of the thing of which we are seeking certain knowledge. The thing is, of course, our real nature. The thing is, of course, we call it Atman or Brahman. So, we are seeking the correct knowledge of this thing. So, Sadananda deals with the nature of that thing. And through the nature of that thing, we should understand about how to know that thing. But that is put secondary here. There is another book, Vedanta Paribhasha by Dharmaraja Adhvirendra, where he deals with the means of knowledge. How do we know things? In English, it is called epistemology. This may be called metaphysics. That means the object to be known. So, because Sadananda Yati deals specifically with the thing to be known, he does not deal so much about our means of knowledge, which he implies by knowing the thing, we can derive what is the means of knowledge, but he does not deal with it in detail, which is dealt with by Dharmaraja Rathurin. So it is called the Prakarana Grantha. It deals with an aspect of spirituality where we are more concentrated in knowing the nature of the thing which we want to realize. It deals more with the nature of the thing we want to realize and not the means of knowledge. How to know that he will tell us, but does not discuss what is Pratyaksha Jnana, what is the Jnana, how the knowledge is objectified. In epistemology, that he does not deal with. So it is clear, it is called a Prakarana Grantha. And it is taken by all Vedantists as the best primer of Vedanta, because it presents the definition exact of the words occurring in the Upanishads. So the words, when they occur in the Upanishads, what they imply, that is very correctly given by Sadananda. Very correctly. And he presents as if he is defining one after the other, but he has presented the definitions in such a order that it leads us to the absolute knowledge. So that is the general nature of the subject matter of the book. The subject matter of the book is same. Jiva Brahmaikyam Shuddha Chaitanyam Prameyam, as Sadananda himself will tell us. We'll deal with that when it comes. But the subject matter is the realization of the identity between the individual soul and the universal soul. That is the subject matter. What is the prayojan? Why we are reading this? We want to know it. We want to know does not mean information or intellectual knowledge. We want to realize it. We want to become perfect in life. We want to get moksha, whatever name you call it. We have discussed it many times, and we may discuss it again when the time comes, that the goal is only one. We call it by different names. We want to realize our own real nature. We want to realize the nature of this world. We want to realize God. We want to realize our identity with Brahman. We want to be free from the bondage of samsara. We want to become perfect even in this life. So that is the different descriptions of our prayojan. And who are we? Sadananda will beautifully describe who is fit to receive it. That means people ask whether it is for the common man. If the common man wants to remain common man, then it is not for him. Then nothing is for him except eating, drinking, and enjoying. But if the common man wants to not to remain the common man, but to remain the very special person who has reached perfection, If the common man is ready to pay the price for reaching perfection, the common man is ready to change himself to reach perfection, then he is the fit recipient here. We shall discuss the recipient through Sadandaiti again, but in the beginning, we think that recipient is he who is ready to change himself as directed by the gurus and scriptures. That is called the fit recipient. And main thing is how. How? About this, let me tell you some of my experiences. I do not want to criticize anybody here. I will give an example. When I was in Rishikesh, near our kutia, there is a Vivek ashram. Not concerned with Vivekananda Swami. Huh? Vivek is Viveka Chudamani is Vivek. They are followers of, they are running under the Kailash ashram. Now, their annual function, they invite good Vedantis to preside over their meetings. Please, I do not want to take the name here. If you permit, I will tell the name. There is a very good Shankara teaching in Kankhar called the Sadhana Sadan. And the Mandleshwar of Sadhana Sadan was invited to preside one of the meetings. Now there the president is different. One who conducts the meeting is different. So president is honorific and at the end he speaks himself on a subject by his own choice. So that day, this Mandleshwar said, today I will speak on Anubandha, the essential things which go with that scripture. And he said, Adhikari, Vishaya, Prayojan. And then taxing his memory. He said, Sambandha. Then he started dealing with them. And Adhikari, Vishay, and Prayojan, as best as the orthodox Vedantis can present it, and stopped there. He had told about Sambandha by taxing his memory, and while explaining it, did not touch it at all. So I, in joke, said, Asambandha Vedanta. I will tell another incident. One of our Swamis, our means not Ramakrishna Mission Swamis, but a person following that ideology. I knew him indirectly. And when I went to Devaprayag, I met him physically first time. There he said, I want to learn from you. I said, surprising, because I have heard that you are a teacher of Vedanta. He said, yes, I joined the Kailash Ashram, I learned Vedanta, and they declared me to as qualified to teach Vedanta, and I am teaching Vedanta. But the Vedanta I am teaching has no connection with our practical life. But you people in the Ramakrishna Mission, the Vedanta preached by Swami Vivekananda is very practical in life. So I want to learn from you. Do you understand Asambandha Vedanta and connected with our life? Now let me tell you, it is a rare thing. And by the grace of God, I learned this from my Guruji. What is this Sambandha? How to study Vedanta? He gave an example, two ways he has told me. He gave an example from the Bhakti scriptures. Imagine, visualize. Srimati Radha is standing, near her, her friend is there. And at a little distance, somebody has called upon Krishna, Sham. Radha says, I will quote in Bengali first, then translate. Sakhi keva sunaino shamanam, kaner bhitare diya morame poshino go, akul korilo mor pran. My friend who has uttered Shama's name, it has gone through my ears and it has hit my delicatest point, marma, And it has made me vakul, restless to see that sham. After telling this incident, my Guru used to tell, this is Vedantic Shravan. That means you have to listen. I get two meanings from this. You have to listen with this eagerness to realize the truth. Or the listening should be such, we should intense, we should produce in you this intense yearning to realize the truth. Either with that intense yearning you are listening, or the listening should produce such intense yearning to realize. That is the sambandha. How to read? We hear that sannyasi should study Vedanta. After studying Vedanta, what should they do? They should teach Vedanta. Now, another way my Guruji told me, what to study? Rishi Vakya. Rishi is that where you see perfection. And I already described the details which he has given me. Then how to study? Now I am telling his words in English. Study critically and devotionally. How to study scriptures to get that Brahman? Just by studying intellectually, nothing happens. Just by putting brain into it, nothing happens. He said, study critically and devotionally. What is critically? We are not criticizing them. Critically means analytical. Why the scripture is telling such a thing? What the scripture wants me to change? And context. At this point, why the Rishi is telling such a thing? What he wants me to do or change? This is called critically. Critically means the purpose of the teller should hit me. So why? What he wants me to change? What he wants me to follow? And at what point of life, what is to be followed? Devotionally, he defined again, fill the gap. First fill the gap and then try to fill up the gap. That means every sentence of the scriptures is a presenting an ideal before me. Immediately compare with yourself and find out where do you stand in comparison to that, and feel that gap painfully. When we read of Sri Ramakrishna and how he was truthful personified, and then we look to ourselves and find where we stand in that life. And this difference should be felt painfully. Fill the gap and then try to fill up the gap. This is devotional reading. Devotional study also means that only brain should not come in the picture, the heart should come in the picture, the experiencing organ should come in the picture, then it is devotional. I think at this point, sufficient to tell you how to read the scriptures is equally important. That is called the sambandha. So that we realize the truth. And as that Swami Devaprayag told me, when it comes to life, then automatically it will come to practice. Not that we read Vedanta and practice it. We realize Vedanta and then it comes into practice. So that is how to study Vedanta. These four things are called Anubandhas. Sadananda Yati will also discuss them, but we have to discuss it right from the beginning. So I discussed in my own way as I understood from my Guruji. So Pramana, leave to Dharmaraja Advarindra. Prameya, the thing to be realized, the very nature of thing to be realized is the subject matter of this book. Now, this book is roughly from the 14th century AD. I need not discuss, let it go. That most of the books after 14th century have become affected by the Naiyayical language, too much logical language. which has taken us away from the experience. Sadananda's book is entirely free from that language. Very direct language as used by Shankara and his disciples, as used by the scriptures, that is how he presents. That is another beauty. So now, when we come to the book itself, just now I chanted the opening verse of the book is the Mangalacharan here. And let us think of the opening verse again. Om. Om is, we have added, Akhandam Satchidanandam. Comparatively, you have to see. The reality is existence, consciousness, bliss, unbroken. Existence, consciousness, bliss without parts. Existence, consciousness, bliss, not whole, but entire. Compare. We are also existences broken into parts. We also have consciousness of our own individuality as a part. We also have bliss, sometimes semblance of a bliss, only a particle of the bliss. And the reality is unbroken. Existence, consciousness, bliss, that itself tells us that we are not separate from that. If the entire universe, without breaking into parts, especially without breaking into the subject and object part, is taken as a whole, then that is the nature of the reality. And the special characteristics, you cannot describe the ultimate reality, but special characteristics are existence, knowledge or consciousness, and bliss. That is one must understand. That we want to find the common reality between all, it has to be consciousness. And automatically there will be unbroken bliss there. So, Akhandam Satchidanandam Avang Manasa Gocharam. It is transcendent. Vani, only the thing which we can experience or imagine, a limited thing that our Vani can describe. Our Vani can describe that which we see, feel or imagine. But we can never see, feel or imagine by our limited senses the infinite Brahman. And so, Vani will have to be given up at a point. Vani will have to go beyond our speech at a point. So it is not available to one. Now the word is gocharam. Some words get a derived meaning. Gocharam means available to the indriyas. Go is indriyas. Charam means where they go. So gocharam means available to the indriyas. But then the wider meaning is where one can go. Gocharam. So Vani cannot go there. Vani agocharam. Mind. Mind cannot think or imagine without breaking everything into a subject and an object. That is the very quality of the mind. So mind can never reach there. We can reach. We are neither Vani, we are neither mind, we are consciousness, we are nothing but that reality. So we can reach there. But why this is told, Avanganacha Gocharam? Some people derive from it that we cannot know it. That is not true. In order to know it, we'll have to go beyond our speech. In order to know it, we'll have to leave our mind behind and go. That is the implication. Atmanam, that is our real nature. Such is our real nature that it is partless, unbroken, existence, consciousness, bliss, where the Vani cannot reach, where the mind cannot reach, such is our own real nature. That is the meaning of the word Atmanam. Akhiladharam. Our own real nature is not exclusively ours. It is not only the individual. If it is real nature, It is the real nature of the entire universe. It is the real nature of the entire universe. Akhila Adharam. It is the substratum of the world which we see. The world which we see is a superimposition on that, on our own real nature. So immediately Sadananda provided the absolute reality in this way. That is our real nature, not broken from the real world, but as the substratum or the base of the whole world. Akila Dharam Ashraye. I take resort to that. Sadananda is taking resort to that. He is asking all of us to take resort to that. Avishta Siddhaye, for fulfillment of what I want. What does he want? He wants not only to realize Brahman, which he has already done, he wants to inculcate that knowledge of Brahman in us. So that is his Avishta Siddhi. And for that, he takes resort of Brahman only. He does not take resort of his intellect. He does not take resort of his scholarship. He takes resort of the reality itself, so that his desire to inculcate that knowledge in us will succeed. How we should take it? We should take resort to our real nature, which is the Aadhar of the whole world, in order to understand it, in order to catch it. We should not take resort to our buddhi only. We should take resort to our own real nature in order to realize the real nature. So that is the message of the Mangala Charan or the first verse. But it requires one thing more than the scriptures. We require a living scripture. We require a person who has realized and he can communicate it to us. A person who has realized is, as per my Guru's language, the Vedanta experiences in flesh and blood. And a person in flesh and blood has the power, capacity to inject in me, to inspire in me, to inculcate in me that knowledge. So, Sadananda is next praise to his own Guru in a particular way. Arthatopyadvayanandan atitadvaita mahanasa Gurun Aradhya Vedanta Saram Bhakshe Yathamati. His Guru's name was Advayananda. Sadananda is telling us, Arthatopi Advayananda. That means that was not only the name, he was actually immersed in the bliss which has no second. The meaning of Advayananda is the bliss which has no second, one without a second bliss. That was his very life. And so the meaning of the word was fulfilled in him. Why? Atita Dvaita Bhanata. The Dvaita Bhan, that means the subject-object fleet of consciousness is called Dvaita. I am different and the world is different. I am the enjoyer and the world is enjoyed. So that difference was not there in him. He had gone beyond that difference. Dvaita Bhan, the perception or the consciousness of Dvaita, consciousness of the split of subject and object was not in him. He had gone beyond that. So the meaning of Advayananda was fulfilled in him. Guru. Now the words are in plural. He had only one Guru. So out of respect, the plural is used. In Sanskrit and in English and in many Indian languages, out of respect, the plural is used. So here, Advayanandan, Gurun means not many gurus, but that guru, his name was Advayananda Aradhya, worshipping him. Sadananda says worshipping him. Worshipping means bowing down to him. Worshipping means trying to imbibe the truth from him, that is the worship. Vedanta Saramvakshe, he calls the name of the book as the essence of Vedanta. Essence of Vedanta. Now here let us discuss what is this Vedanta. Please mind you, people approach this word Vedanta in two different ways. Some people think it is a school of thought, the best and the highest school of thought. They believe that the Indian Orthodox philosophies are six schools of thought. Out of them, unorthodox many thoughts are there. And Vedanta is the supreme school of thought. I bow down to them from a distance. I have no connection with them. Vedanta has very spashta, clear meaning. The end of Vedas is Vedanta. The culmination of the knowledge of Vedas is Vedanta. Why we should take it as a philosophy? It is the culmination of the Vedic knowledge. So first of all, let us discuss what are Vedas and what is Vedic knowledge. Swami Vivekananda described it beautifully. There is an essay by Swami Vivekananda, Hinduism and Sri Ramakrishna. In that he has discussed that the truth is of two orders. Science, physical sciences, we experience things with the five senses. An ordinary man experiences the world through his five senses. And he logically builds upon that hypothesis. Hypothesis upon hypothesis. Swamiji said that is all physical sciences. Knowledge gained by the five senses of an ordinary person and built up logically on that is called the physical sciences. But there is another knowledge. And that knowledge is, Swamiji's words, Yogaja Sukshma Shakti Grahya. Yogaja Sukshma Shakti Grahya. Yoga means the method of realization. When we follow some method of realization, we develop a new power, subtler power. We can experience the truths which are not experienced by the five senses. We can experience our own mind. We can experience the five subtle elements. We can experience buddhi. We can experience the universal truths. We can experience Brahman himself. So, Sukshma Shakti is produced by yoga, and that which is available to that Sukshma Shakti is called Vedas. Veda means, Ved means to know. Vedas means knowledge. But all knowledge is not called Vedas. Science is not included in the Vedas. Vedas have nothing to do with the knowledge which we gain by five senses. Veda will tell you, you go to science if you want that. But if you want subtler knowledge, come to us. Now the subtler knowledge again, let me divide in certain parts. The most important subtle knowledge is the knowledge of consciousness amidst the matter. Devata Gya. There is fire in my house. There is fire in your house. There is fire in the forest. There is fire in the ocean. But when I get the direct knowledge that all fire is only one and it is not a material something, it is consciousness expressed as fire. That is called Agni Devata Jnana. Vayu Devata Jnana. The rishis saw everything as Devata. There cannot be anything in the world which does not have consciousness. Vruksha Devata, the tree god, the forest god, the building god, Vastu Devata. Everything is God. Everything, they are different gods. The different gods, that means consciousness in matter. We are seeing fire as material. But there is a consciousness. What is the difference? I am also consciousness. So this knowledge of the Vedas comes only to that man who can feel himself as consciousness, not as only body or mind, simultaneously feels I am an individualized consciousness, while these are cosmic consciousnesses, cosmic particularized consciousnesses. That means Agni Devata will not make the rain fall. Agni Devata will only give fire. For rainfall, there will be Indra. For water, when it is collected, the Devata will be Varun. So like that, many Devatas not imagined, not speculated upon, experienced by the Rishis. Rishi, Swamiji is there itself defined. Rishi is one who can see things which we do not see. So, he is transcendental vision, supersensuous vision, and the knowledge which he gets is more direct than our direct knowledge. So he says the knowledge gained by these rishis is called Vedas. So Vedas means supersensuous knowledge. First, main supersensuous knowledge is knowledge of consciousness associated cosmically in matter or energy. Indra is the god of such gods. Vayu Devata, as I told you, Vriksha Devata, Vana Devata, Vastu Devata, what and what not. Jala Devata. Rivers, for example, in our country, rivers are not running water. Rivers are goddesses. And they have their own personalities. For example, Narmada is the river of Vairagya. Yamuna is the river of Bhakti. Ganga is the river which gives Swarga also and Moksha also. So, rivers have their own identity. And so, everything has consciousness. This is the first type of subtler knowledge which is included in the Vedas. Now what happens? We are basically, most of us are selfish people. Now, when we are children, we see our parents. They have consciousness and they are superior to us. They have more power than us. Then we beg them, please give me this, please give me that, and they give. So when we see these cosmic powers, we start begging them. Oh Agni Devata, please give me this. Oh Varun Devata, please give me this. Like that, oh Rudra Devata, give me this. That is due to selfishness of man combined with his vision of the cosmic deities. Now, if you want to get something, we must give something. That is the law. And there came Karma Kanda. Vedas have three portions. First is called Sangita. That means the collection of the hymns of different gods. When we praise them and the hymns are collected, so many hymns are about Indra, so many about Varuna, so many about Agni. So that is the first part. But then what karma you have to do to get what fruit? What karma you should not do to get a bad fruit? So this portion goes by the name Brahmana portion. Funnily, that means, let me comment that mostly Brahmins are indulging in that. But that portion is called Brahman portion, which deals with, they call Vinyoga. That means how this mantra should be used, in which Havana it should be used to get a certain result. This is also supersensuous knowledge. It is neither imagination nor mathematical calculation, but the Rishi can see that this karma will lead to this fruit. So the law of karma and karma phal is the second type of supersensuous knowledge in the Vedas from the Brahmana portion. Now there is a third type of supersensuous knowledge. yogis or Vedantis or Bhaktas, those who are, as Swamiji said, Yogaja. That means one who has followed some method for realizing God, his mind becomes elevated. And this gross world which we see, presenting we are doing it rationally, that it must be having composed of subtler elements. They have combined to become gross. We are presenting it like that. But the rishis can see the subtler elements which combine to become the gross. They can see what is the mind, which is a subtler thing. They can see what is buddhi. So, supersensuous knowledge of the subtler things is the third type of supersensuous knowledge. Supersensuous knowledge, three types. Devata Jnana, knowledge of consciousness associated with matter or energy. Karma Phala Jnana, the knowledge of what karma leads to what phal, and knowledge of supersensuous objects. Now, for example, compare with science. Science says that what you see as gold or silver, they are not elements. The nuclear physics, when it came, it told us that atoms have inside them a proton and some electron is moving. They never told us how to see the electrons. There is no method of proposing even to see the electrons. You have to see their effect in a test tube. That means coming back to five senses only. But Vedas propose and show us through the yogic methods, through any method of elevation, that you can perceive these subtler elements. So these three type of subtler knowledges are called the Vedas. Yogaja Sukshma Shakti Grahya, these three types, Sangita, Brahman, the third portion of the Vedas is called Aranya. That means people are relatively Vairagyavan, they're tired of this gross world, they retire to forest and worship God mentally. That Aranyaka means mental worship of God specially. And there they deal with these subtler elements and all that. Now, this is Vedas. Suppose we are not so selfish. All of us are not so selfish. This praising the gods, this adoring the gods has a power to lift our mind, to lift our consciousness. And if we are not selfish, if we are unselfish enough, then our consciousness is raised to a different level. A jump comes. Instead of seeing different devatas, we see one consciousness. Instead of seeing different devatas, we see one Brahman. What happens to these devatas? They are aspects of that Brahman. They are aspects of that Brahman. Brahman is only one. Now here, two jumps come. If the devata is there, I am there. If there is only one consciousness, I have no separate consciousness. So when the mind goes higher, consciousness raises higher because of the purity of the mind, then it conceives, it sees, not conceives, that there is only one consciousness. And my consciousness is not separate from that consciousness. One effect, another effect. Another effect is, what is this world? One consciousness appearing in different names and forms. One consciousness appearing in different names and forms is the world. So there is nothing called matter. There is nothing called jada. What happens? Normally, we are not aware of the consciousness. We see only names and forms. That we call as jada. So this Vedas to Vedanta is the jump. And that is called the culmination of the knowledge of Vedas. Culmination, different consciousnesses are resolved into one consciousness. My consciousness does not remain separate. And matter, what we call, doesn't, up till now we are saying God's consciousness in matter. But when we see one without a second consciousness, there is no matter. What we are seeing, that very consciousness appearing in names and forms. If we do not pursue the consciousness, we are pursuing only names and forms. And so, that is what we are calling matter. So, this is called Vedanta. The culmination of the knowledge of the Vedas is called Vedanta. And that is of supreme importance to us. It is that knowledge which is going to release us forever. It is that knowledge which is going to give us perfection in life. Neither individual nor material, nothing. One consciousness. And that is what the rishis have. That is what the incarnations have. So, that is the meaning of Vedanta, which I am a follower of. I don't want to know what are the schools of thought in philosophy, and is not necessary also. I want to reach perfection. I want to reach supreme knowledge. And the supreme knowledge, the culmination of the knowledge of Vedas, that is Vedanta, which I am trying to follow, and which I hope all of you also will like to follow with me. So, Vedanta Sar, I have described what is Vedanta. Now, this Vedanta we have already seen is mainly in the Upanishads. Vedas, Vedas culmination are Upanishads within the Vedas. Upanishads are not a separate part of the Vedas. Vedas are Sangita, Brahmana, Aranya. But in Sangita also there are Upanishads. In Brahmana also there are Upanishads. In Aranya also there are Upanishads. And that is called Vedanta. Now, as I told you, there are different Upanishads. So the essence of those Upanishads, as I told you, the definitions which occur in the Upanishads are systematically presented by Sadananda Yati. So he says Vedanta Sar, the essence of Vedanta, Vakshe, I shall speak, Yathamati. Yathamati does not show his limitation. Yathamati shows his modesty. Yathamati shows that while speaking, I have to use my buddhi. And buddhi is limited. So whatever I can communicate to you, that I will speak. From that, if you can catch the spirit, you will reach the absolute. So I will speak as much as I can speak, I can think of, but if you catch the spirit thereof, you can reach the reality. So that is the second shloka. Arthatopi Advayanandan Atita Dvaita Bhanata Gurun Aradha Vedanta Saram Vakshe Yata Mati. No, that is a style now. Immediately takes up one word and explains. Vedanta Nama. I have tried to describe what is Vedanta. Let us follow what Sadananda wants to say. Vedanta Nam means Vedanta is. Nama is not the name. You may say Vedanta is the name given to what? Vedanta means what? Upanishad Pramanam. Pramanam word has come. Important thing. He does not say Vedanta is the Upanishad. The words of the Upanishad are not Vedanta. When the Upanishads are used as means of realization of God, that is Vedanta. Vedanta Nama Upanishad Pramanam. It does not say Vedanta are Upanishads. Upanishad Pramanam. We have seen that Praman is the means of knowledge. When Upanishads are used as means of realizing Brahman, then that is called Vedanta. See, that is the spirit of Sadananda. In small matters, he is leading us to Brahman. So, Vedanta Nama Upanishad Pramana. Now, other than Upanishads, is there no Vedanta? He says, yes, tad upakarini, that which will help you that. He is not rigid or what we call dogmatic. He says Upanishads used as means of knowledge and anything which helps you there. Tad upakarini. For example, please tell us Shariraka Sutra Dini. This is the name given by Vyasdev to his book. Shariraka, not Sharirika. Huh? Sharirika is connected with the body. Shariraka is living within the body but not connected with the body. The Atman appears to live in the body. It has no connection with the body. And an analytical approach to this through the Upanishads is what is the Vyasdeva has proposed. So Vyasdeva has written his book calling it Sharirika Mimamsa Shastra. And that he refers to, he says it Sharirika Sutra Dini, because Vyasdeva has presented as aphorisms. So the aphorisms about the reality living in the body is a means we have just discussed now. So it is as helpful to the knowledge as the Upanishads are. And let us add, as per the tradition goes, Gita, the divine commentary on the Upanishads. And as I told you, all books by Shankaracharya, all books by Gyaneshwar, and this great Sadandaiti's book, and the realization of Sri Ramakrishna and his disciples. So, this is Adini, he has written Adini, Charirika Sutra, etc. Charirika Sutra and others, which will be helpful to the realization of Brahman. Now, let me tell you something here. There are infinite books which go by the name of Vedanta. These three we called as Prasanatraya. Now, those whose brains are too fertile, they have devised a new name, Brihad Prasanatraya. Khandana Khanda Kadya, Chitsukhi, Advaita Siddhi, one must study. Otherwise, you will not a Vedanti. And they term is a Brihad Prasanatraya. Where from they got this word? From their own brain. So, those which are directly helpful. So, these are called Vedanta. Vedanta Nama, Upanishads used as means to get that knowledge, along with those scriptures which will be helpful to get that knowledge, is called Vedanta. So, like that, everything it definitely defines and proceeds in this way, and let us follow that. Next Wednesday, please. Om Akhandam Satchidanandam Avan Manasa Gocharam Atmanamakhiladaram Ashraye Bhishta Siddhaye Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.